Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the County Line. I'm your host, Sergeant Nate Crain, and my trusted partner, K9 Colt. On today's conversation, we're going to have the opportunity to interview Ed Thornton, the son of Deputy Harold Thornton. Harold was killed in the line of duty on August 23rd, 1967. This was the first line of duty death that Stanislaus County has ever experienced. And in this 60 years since this has occurred, we've never had an opportunity to give back to the community and to explain the circumstances of that night and some of the impact and the fallout to the family and the community since then. In law enforcement, we talk about this phrase, gone but not forgotten. And on today's episode, I want to keep that in mind as we really, truly never forget the sacrifice to the family and to the community that the Thornton family has experienced. I'm really excited to get into this conversation. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ed. Thank you for joining us on the County Line. Thank you for being here.
I'm glad I'm here.
Good. Well, this is an exciting episode for me, but I will acknowledge from the outset that this might also be a little challenging for you, and that's okay. But I'm really thankful that you're here. August 23rd of 1967. We're talking almost 60 years ago,
Sure.
59 to be exact.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What do you remember? Why are we here today?
Well, it was just another night. There was six of us kids. We were all in bed. He was at work. We got a knock on the door. Two officers were at the door and basically told my mom my dad had been killed.
How old were you when that happened?
5.
Were you the youngest of the family?
No, there was one younger than me at that time.
How old was your oldest sibling?
At the time, he's in his 70s now, so...
Okay, 60 years, so...
Yeah, so he was probably...
A teenager.
Teenager. And then we're all spaced about 3 years apart.
Okay.
If he's 72 or 3, then, my brother Jim is 3 years younger.
Yeah.
My sister Kathy is 3 years younger. My other sister's 3 years younger. I'm 3 years younger than her, and then Tom. And then, so there was a bit of a commotion. So everybody got up. At 5, I didn't really know what was happening. I was just reacting to my mom and my brothers and sisters.
Who were older and understood more than you what happened or what was said.
They understood what had just happened.
Yeah.
So, and, that was just a blur for the rest of that night and for days on.
Yeah.
It just tore our family apart.
So your mother gets the news that your father was murdered.
Yes.
And she now has to decipher, how am I going to raise 6 kids as now widowed?
Yeah.
And was she working at the time?
She worked at the sheriff's office.
She did.
She was a jailer.
So
In fact, she was jailing when the animal went in there. And we all know who the animal is. I'm not even going to mention his name.
Sure. Well, we'll get into that later. So she was a deputy sheriff assigned to our adult detention division.
I believe so, yes.
And your father was a deputy sheriff assigned to our patrol division.
He'd been there about 3 years.
Okay. So that was a life-altering event for you and your entire family.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything of your father prior to joining the sheriff's office? Do you know much?
I do.
About his legacy, his time here on earth prior to you?
He was, before he was a Stanislaus sheriff's officer, he was in the Air Force.
Okay.
He was an electrical engineer.
An electrical engineer?
Yeah, so he worked on a lot of the F-4s, the Phantoms, the Delta Wing jets.
Yeah.
So he worked on a lot of the fighter jets when he was in the service.
Would that be Korean era?
I'm not sure if that was Korean or Vietnam.
Vietnam, Korea, okay.
They were talking about, 1960. He'd been in the service before that, and he moved around from different bases in in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us kids were born in Georgia, and some were born, different places. I was born in Japan.
Yeah.
While he was stationed over there.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah, he did a lot of work on the fighter jets.
Yeah.
And he liked it over there. My oldest brother told me he just loved it over there.
And because you don't have that personal firsthand knowledge because you were either not born or so young you don't remember, but these are stories that have been shared with your older siblings.
Yeah.
Just over the years. Okay.
Yeah. So, almost 60 years ago, it's been a long time, but,
Yeah.
My older brother, he has the most knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's just too hard.
Is your oldest brother still alive?
Yes.
Okay. Are
He lives,
all of the
he
kids
lives
still
in
alive?
Tuolumne. Yes.
Okay. So when we were preparing for this episode, I remember sitting with you and you were telling me a story about his time in the military in Japan specifically, and there was a special car that he might have gotten his hands on.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. I mean, just to be true, we weren't rich people,
Yep.
but somehow he got his Cadillac flown over to Japan.
Well, he was an electrical engineer and he worked on planes. He probably knew a guy.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
So he used to love to drive his Cadillac out on the rice paddies and try and converse with the Japanese people out there on the rice paddies. And you know what kind of cars, they drove in Japan. They were just little tiny things, or they were little three-wheel tricycles.
Uh-huh.
So they were just totally enamored by, this was a boat pulling down the road.
How did it not sink in the rice paddies? Aren't rice fields just flooded in under 3 feet
Well,
of water?
they've got roads that go in between them, and I guess they were strong enough to hold that big thing up. It probably weighed 5,000 or 6,000 pounds.
All steel.
Yeah,
Big engine. Sure.
but he loved going out there and driving. He liked mingling with, the people that he went out, in the countries. Either be Georgia or Japan.
Yep.
So he loved that.
Do you know, was he able to get that car back home?
I don't know, but my guess would be yes. I don't think it's sunk in the rice paddy.
Or got stuck in the mud?
Or got stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but you don't recall as a kid back stateside, your mother driving the car or having it as the family car. It would be neat to know where it's at today.
Yeah, no idea. I don't know why it was a Cadillac, because all the years that I knew, he was a Mopar guy. He liked driving the big Dodges, because the police department drove the big Dodges.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's pretty much what I remember growing up with is the Dodge Monacos and the Furies and, the big monster Dodges. We had to have big cars because we were a big family.
Yep. My dad had a 68 Roadrunner that he restored, and of course he sold it, and I don't have it today, but during that process of the restoration and, the love of that car that he shared with me as a kid, maybe a little bit older than, maybe a teenager, I had my eyes set on a Hemi Barracuda 70, and of course they're $150,000 car today if they're restored. I mean, I can't touch anything like that, but boy, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I kept his tradition on. I'm still a Mopar guy. I had a 1970 Challenger RT. I had Dodge Monaco. I've got 2 Dodge pickups. Because of him, I'm a Dodge guy.
Yeah.
Thick or thin. But, there's another thing that came up to my mind while he was in Japan. There was, they had open sewers. And there was a little Japanese boy that fell into the open sewer. And he couldn't get out. He was drowning. And my dad jumped in there and saved him.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So that's the kind of man he was.
A heroic heart.
Yeah.
Somebody
needed
for
help,
others.
he would help. Yeah.
So he did a career in the military.
Yes.
And came back stateside and found civilian work here at the sheriff's office.
Yes.
And was here for 3 years before that tragic night.
Right.
Okay. And in that time, do you know where he met your mother? So she came to work for the sheriff's office, but did they meet, in high school? Are we high school sweethearts? What do you know about that?
I never did ask anybody.
Okay.
How they met.
It doesn't matter. They met.
Certainly my older brothers and sisters would know.
Yep.
I never thought to ask, where they met.
Yeah.
There weren't too many places in the 60s, there weren't
Sure.
places like that. But, they basically, were in Ceres a lot. So Ceres is probably pretty small.
Were you born and raised in Ceres, or was that where the family home was?
I was born in Japan.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then when we came back from Japan, we came straight to Modesto, California.
Okay. And
that's pretty much where we ended up, because he was no longer in the service. His new career was as sheriff's officer. My mom got on at the sheriff's office also. So
okay. So we've got the time in the military, short time here with the sheriff's office until that occurred. Can you tell us what life was like after that for the family, for you, to the extent that you can recall and share to disclose?
After he was killed, or?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before he was killed, I do remember a little bit of him.
Okay.
I used to love when he'd bring the cruiser home.
Yeah.
I could sit in the front seat, sit on his lap, and move the steering wheel back and forth, and he'd run the lights and the sirens for me. I got a real kick out of it.
I've got a similar memory of my own children doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I still have a photograph that my wife took of my son.
And he was a very good father. He was strict,
Most cop dads are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, mainly, some of the memories that I had that were good. There were memories where, we used to get a spanking every day when he got home because we did something and my mom told him.
It.
Yep, we deserved it. And he didn't let us get away with it. So that's how that pretty much went on. And you don't like that as a kid, but as you grow up, you understand, Plus, he's seen a lot in the sheriff's office that he doesn't want us to go down those roads, that he's going down.
If we could just have a sense of accountability in today's world that we had then, I wonder what our world today, how it would look different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
parents that care.
That, he would go down the canal banks and the old vineyard roads, and he'd catch underage drinkers. He used to love to do that.
Yep.
But, very rarely ever arrested any of them. He would give them the fatherly talk, make them spill out the alcohol, and, really, be good to them, not just be hard. And he used to love to do that.
Yeah.
So that's mainly what I remember of him before he was killed.
Yeah. Any other, sporting events? What other kind of things did the family do? Again, I know that you were 5 at the time, so you were even younger in those 3 or 4 years that he was a deputy. So I get that you were young, but are there any stories that have been shared with you from older siblings? Were we a football family, a baseball family? Did we go to the county fairs? What kind of things did you do, or do you remember?
I remember he was a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay.
So he was a football.
Cheesehead, huh?
Yeah, he was a football fan. I don't remember, any outings or anything like that.
Okay.
With 6 kids, we didn't eat out much. We didn't go out much because it was just a lot of money. We had big bowls of spaghetti, and we'd have to have fish on Fridays, and typical Catholic family.
Yep.
We did go to church, and and that's pretty much, I was just a kid playing around at the time. So
what else do you remember about his time as a deputy sheriff? I mean, I loved hearing, remembering sitting on his lap and turning the steering wheel. Again, it instantly prompted an image of my own experience with my own child.
Yeah.
Any other stories? Do you remember?
Well, back then, you have dinner. Everybody goes to dinner. Everybody's around the table.
All the kids didn't sit on their cell phones and run to their rooms and play video games? No?
Yeah, we had one TV with the 3-channel clicker. There was nothing else to do. But
well, at least you had a clicker.
Yeah.
I mean,
the clicker as in you walked
so
up
you
and
were the clicker.
Yeah, you went and
okay, got it.
Turned it on.
Understood.
But one thing was that we always had to eat dinner together. And that was...
Can we bring that back to today's world too, please?
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah. now everybody's on a TV tray leaning back in their recliner watching something on television. But that used to be challenging with that many kids. 5 of us were boys and, 2 of us were girls. So there was a little testosterone going on there.
No wonder he was strict. He had to keep you hellions in line.
Yeah. And luckily, we had spaghetti, we had big things to feed a lot of people, every night. But, he was one, I don't know if it was him or my mom, we'd always have to have some kind of vegetable. And we had a big bowl chandelier over the table. Well, we got to where when they weren't looking, we would fling the peas or the corn up into that big bowl. And that went on for a long time until one night, I don't know if my mom or my dad realized that it was getting dark over the dining room table.
And smelly with rotten
and
food,
they
maybe?
Looked up and got on a whatever ladder or chair and looked up in there, and it was a lot of our vegetables had been flung up into that chandelier. So I'm sure, I don't remember, but I'm sure there was some punishment coming at that time.
Do you need a reminder as to why he was a little strict, maybe?
Yeah. Some of the stuff as I got older is you could see why he was doing what he was doing.
That's right.
But he was good. He was fair. He was strict. He was a typical parent in the 1960s.
Yeah. But, for any police officer, I'll try and speak for your father and for all cops, all cop dads. We see how messed up society is, whether it's in 1960 or 2026. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Societies really don't change all that much, although I think we would all agree that society is slowly degrading or maybe even quickly degrading.
It sure
but
is.
We see how messed up other families are, other kids are, whatever the case is, and we just say, we want better for our kids. And so if that means I've got to be strict, it's out of love, not anger, hopefully, most times.
Yeah.
But it's because we see the way the world is going, and we want to try to shield our kids from it and kind of move them in a different direction.
Yeah.
And I would bet he was doing the same thing, had the same thoughts.
Yep. And if he would have been able to continue on, he would have continued. We probably would have ended up better children. Not that we ended up bad, because I had a stepdad that came along that took us on.
Yeah.
But, you sort of lose that, once that figure is gone.
Yeah.
So
your mom was able to remarry?
Yeah. She met somebody right afterward. I mean, I don't know her feelings, but when you're a single parent and you've got 6 kids, and then it was 7 kids, that's a lot to take care of. That takes a lot of money. So she met somebody that didn't work, and then she met Daryl Ireland, which is still my stepdad. I consider him my dad.
A good man?
I can't believe he did what he did. I don't think there's many men or women today that would take on what he took on. I think he was a little crazy, to take on a family that had been savaged by this, and try and take us down, the same path, my father was taking us down. So, my hat's off to him for, taking on that burden, because that was a huge burden. I like to joke about one of the reasons why maybe he did that is he knew he had 7 little workers.
Sure.
Because it wasn't very long after that, he opened up a swimming pool business that we had open for 50 years.
Really?
That all the kids worked at one time or another, and my sister Terry and I worked. We only had one job our entire life, and that was in the pool business.
Yeah.
We were there when it opened, and we were there when we closed it down. So, but there's not many men that would take on what he took on.
Sure.
And, he survived my mom. My mom passed away in 2022. So.
Do you mind if I ask a little bit more of a deeper, maybe personal question, kind of along the lines of
Okay, go
a
ahead.
stepfather coming into the picture? And I'll make the reference to, an orphan child, or maybe a child that goes into protective custody. Oh my gosh, I want to say welfare system. That's not it. What is the word I'm trying to say? The foster system. Thank you. The foster system. Oftentimes, children that enter the foster system come from homes that are not just broken, but maybe there was physical or emotional abuse, and the child, emotionally speaking, or maybe even physically, is damaged. But there are still foster parents that are willing to adopt these children because they want to love them and try to, through the love, heal them. And I have to assume that emotional trauma, not because it was inflicted upon you or any of your siblings through, emotional trauma or being beaten to death, but I would imagine some of you were emotionally messed up.
Yeah.
How did he manage those issues, or your mother still loving the children with presumably some emotional trauma?
Yeah. The emotion, my oldest brother was already almost at the age where I think he was better equipped to handle the trauma. The second oldest brother, he had troubles. He, became more of a rebel, and it affected him out of all of us probably the most.
Okay.
He never got put in prison or anything like that, but, and then my sisters, we all just, as we got younger, we probably were able to adapt to it a little bit better just because, we were younger at the time.
Okay. But for the sake of argument, the children of the family, maybe because of the love that your stepfather brought into the home and the stability and the consistency, maybe that helped the younger kids maintain some semblance of emotional control. But a couple,
there's no doubt,
had to lash out
that he
to
helped
process.
the younger. There was only one brother that probably, I wouldn't say took it the worst, but it just allowed him to stray. Because he was already at the age, once my stepdad came in, that he was already doing a lot of stuff on his own. And so I have to say that, for what we went through, the family has gone through it, pretty well.
That's good. That's a testament to a mother who, I'm assuming, really dug deep and focused, maybe not on her own emotional trauma and hurt, but for the love of her children, tried to maintain that stability and the consistency,
right,
to shelter you guys and protect you and still continue to provide. That's wonderful to hear.
She wanted to. She didn't have a choice. And when my stepdad came along, that made life for her, a lot easier. Still challenges, absolutely. There's challenges in normal families too.
Oh, sure. We're going to transition into the night of the murder of your father, August 23rd of 1967. And I'm going to use the word excited, but that's not the right term. But I want to be able to capture how impactful this is going to be. And on that night, your father had, in those days, it was called an Explorer Scout. Today, we call them just explorers. But it was a young man who was a volunteer, not yet a police officer, but he wore a uniform similar to that of the deputies that night. And we have him here with us today. Had a wonderful career as a law enforcement officer, chief of police, city of Waterford here in our county. Chief Waddell, thank you for joining us, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Before we get into this, is there truth to the fact that, again, we're talking about a 60-year span of time, you guys were almost neighbors, weren't you?
Sure.
Or were you? For a period of time.
I guess.
I lived on Tioga, and I understand that you lived on Crain.
We were on where Tioga comes into Crain.
I'll be darned. I drove by your house for 22 years.
You should have stopped in.
I rode my bike past your house. It's amazing to know that we were that close together.
Wow.
And never knew.
And never knew.
Prior to this arrangement to have this recording take place, you guys have never met each other.
No.
No.
Wow. And lived 100 yards from one another.
And it was sort of strange. I did some detective work and found your story that you did for the Oakdale Leader. I believe it was the Oakdale Leader. And you were on a little golf cart and you talked about Crain Road, and because we were thinking, how are we going to find this man? So I actually called the Oakdale Leader and I said, James Waddell did a piece many years ago, and it was just on the machine because they were closed. And I was so surprised a day or so later to have the gal from the Oakdale Leader call me up, because I thought, well, she must just think I'm a kook, asking me if I could somehow have them get a hold of you, that I wanted to talk to you. So I thought that was sort of cool that I did a little police sleuthing and I tracked you down before these guys could track you down.
Quite successfully,
I did, yeah. So I was very happy to be able to make your acquaintance.
Good. Same here.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm excited to be able to be a part of this. I'm not even. It can't be called a reunion, because that would mean that you're reuniting and we're not. We're
right.
Just initial introduction. But the night of your father's murder, we had a 17-year-old young man, didn't really know a whole lot about policing or deputy sheriffing, but tell us about your career as I don't know, maybe you were 15 or 16 when you began the Explorer Post, but Chief, can you tell us a little bit about how that started and then lead up into the August night?
I joined the Sheriff's Explorers in, I believe it was the previous December.
So December of 66, okay?
66. And right away they gave us a little bit of an indoctrination as to different divisions within the department.
Okay.
And we were all we saw the patrol cars coming and going in and out of we called it the pit back then.
Yep.
Were you there back when they?
Oh, I booked plenty of people down in the old courthouse.
I don't know who was where when.
Yeah.
So, but we would see these patrol cars coming and going and just practically froth at the mouth to get a chance to go out there in a patrol car. But nope, got to spend time in the jail, so we had to go in the jail for I don't know how many shifts, probably 8 or 10. And then they wanted us to work with detectives, and we did that. And the ID division,
Yep.
That's CSI. Finally got out there, and I came in unscheduled one afternoon in February, hoping I could just maybe get somebody that would let me go for a ride in one of the patrol cars. I don't remember who the sergeant was back then. It was, anyway, I think it was Fred Woods. And he says, you know what, why don't you go out on the Ford? They didn't have beat designations back then or shift designations, like a third shift or a first shift. So it was just, why don't you go out 4 to midnight here with Cliff G. He's going out here pretty quick. Okay. Just go down to the basement and attend. They're having a little briefing now. There's about 4 or 5 deputies that are going out. So I went down there and just sitting there all excited to get to go out. And pretty soon something came over the intercom from upstairs, which would have been the dispatch center. And I had no idea what it was. But all those deputies knew. I mean, coffee cups were turned over and chairs, they would back up and the chairs were being knocked over. I thought, what in the world is going on here? And people were grabbing briefcases and shotguns and nightsticks, and they were headed out the door, and Cliff grabs me by the arm and practically jerks me. He said, "You're going with me. Get with it." Yes, sir. And out we went, and we were probably 3rd or 4th car in a procession of 5, and we're all going code 3, lights and siren, out went out 14th Street to Yosemite Boulevard. And on the way, Cliff told me what we were going to. He said we had gotten an 1199 call, which I knew that code. It's one of the first things we learned, that when that's put out, everybody within reasonable distance responds to it.
Yeah, and just for the audience, it's not just deputy sheriffs. It would be City Modesto. It could be City of Ceres. It's an all call. The officer is in grave danger and needs an overwhelming amount of support to come and help him with whatever the issue is he's dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a big time thing.
Same way back then, for sure. And he said, our day shift deputy got in a bind arresting some 211 suspects.
Okay, 211 is a robbery.
This was a strong arm robbery.
Okay.
And he was trying to arrest the two suspects, and they overpowered him. And anyway, somehow he's in trouble, and that's where we're going to. So.
And this was in Empire, correct?
At the Breezewood Trailer
Park. Still there today.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the last trailer park in Empire. It might be the last anything in Empire as you're going south out of town on Santa Fe.
Yeah.
So we get there, and these deputies, they all knew where they were going because they just zipped right through all those little internal streets and got to this little, I don't know, the trailer that these two guys lived in, the two suspects, was probably somewhere around 20 feet, 24 feet long. And they all disappeared inside, and then they came out one at a time, and one of them had a guy who only had one arm, and that arm was handcuffed behind his back to a belt loop in his pants. And turned out to be, I know you don't want to say the name, but
you can.
I'm going to need to. Turned out his name was John Britton Miller, and he was the main suspect. But what had happened is that these two suspects saw one of the people that lived with them in the trailer park heading down Santa Fe, and went into this little mini mart down toward the highway. And I guess they waited for him or followed him, and they waited for him, whether they stole his wallet or stole what he had purchased or what, but they knocked him down, knocked him over, and stole the stuff, and then went back, according to the victim in the RP, went back to the trailer where they lived. So our victim calls the sheriff's office from the phone in the mini mart and told them what had happened, and that's what precipitated the call that we got.
Do you remember the name of the deputy that was the first responder to meet with that victim, the day shift deputy you just spoke of?
I kind of got backtracked on that. It was Ed Lyman.
Deputy Ed Lyman. Okay. So he was the deputy that was also overpowered by the two suspects in the trailer?
Yes.
Okay.
And how that happened, all these years later, I'm still trying to figure it out. And nobody had ever told me how these two guys, especially one with only one arm, overpowered a healthy, husky deputy sheriff. He was about your size. He was no slouch. But somehow they manhandled him, and his gun got lost in the struggle. Maybe it was kicked under a car. Who knows? But the one named Miller made the comment that I'm going to kill this SOB as soon as I can find my shells. And while the other one was somehow holding him down or had him pinned, Miller was looking for his shotgun shells and couldn't find them. And then we get the 1199 call, and our guys get there, and of course that's what they found. It was just Lyman down on the ground with Miller's buddy holding him.
So this is in February of '67. Ed Lyman goes to the initial call of the robbery, attempts to take the two suspects into custody. During that encounter, is overpowered to a certain degree, but he survived. Maybe he was injured, maybe not, but he survived that encounter. called for 1199. Deputies go and assist. The two suspects of this robbery are taken into custody safely at some point, and Miller is found guilty, convicted, and goes to county jail
Yes.
sometime thereafter.
Yes.
And again, I want to just try to lay this foundation. So he's convicted of this robbery. During this time, he was sentenced. He was given some sort of a privilege in county jail. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yes. What I never could understand is why he got county time, which was just a slap on the wrist for an obvious felony. But
do you remember what the sentencing was?
I just know it was a few months.
It was minimal, yeah.
Minimal.
Pretty sure, and I'm going from memory, but I'm pretty sure it was around 2 months, 60 days in county jail, and 1 year probation.
Were you able to find the records on that?
Yes.
I don't. So you'll know if I'm close to being right.
Oh, you're great. Whatever you recall is what's important.
Okay.
But so he's sentenced to a measly 2 months in county jail.
He had time to gain what they call trustee status.
Okay.
And for people who don't know what that is, that's people who are put in jail normally under a non-violent or non-serious crime, who are able to work some of their sentence off by doing odd jobs around the office.
Cleaning, pulling weeds, mowing lawns,
car washing.
Whatever. Sure.
Yeah, and
I wonder if it's because he had one arm. He would have been considered prey in a jail setting, defenseless, if you will. And I wonder if that led to earning the right of trustee status. I don't know that answer. Just
that's
a thought.
a possibility. I didn't think of that. Sure, could have been. But in this capacity as a trustee, he was, at this one point in time, he was given the detail of doing the floors.
Janitor duty.
Janitor.
Okay. Of which office?
All of them.
But the sheriff's
The
office.
entire sheriff's office.
Yeah. So
he had the detective division.
Yep.
He could go in there after hours. And I hope and assume that the detectives were told to lock up their sensitive stuff, because they had trustees going in there doing the dusting and their floor mopping or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, he was able to do that. And at that time, the patrol division had the deputies' beat schedules and beat assignments up on a wall in the hallway that runs from the squad room down along to where the old gun armory was. I don't know if you know where that was, but it was alongside that wall and pinned up there. And their names and their beats and shifts were written on with a grease pencil on that acetate or whatever it's called. So what I'm telling you now was later determined after a thorough investigation by one of the detective sergeants. I think it was Don Bear.
Okay.
Or somebody who had assisted him. It was concluded that because Lyman was the one responsible for Miller being thrown in jail, Miller had made a pact with himself that he was going to get him.
And that was mentioned in the police report during the arrest of Miller.
It was.
Lyman put in the police report that he made threats to kill him, and the importance of this trustee status that this person received, Miller, means that he had access to the schedules, the shifts, the names of the deputies that were working, because in those days there was nothing electronic. You don't have a lock screen on your computer. It was on a whiteboard, just written. Crain was working this day at this time, and it was written there. And that's how we believe Miller learned that Lyman was going to be working in that South Modesto area on the night of August. So we're fast forwarding a little bit. But it goes deeper because Miller, because of his trustee, when he got out of jail, moved from Empire. He came into what is still to this day 604 Olivero, another mobile home park here in South Modesto, which is in the beat that Lyman was assigned to. And the belief is that Miller started to plot the death of Lyman. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So he comes to county jail, trustee. He learns all this story about, or the information about the deputy schedules and shifts and things, and gets released. He's on probation for a year. And let's just say, for again, we don't know all of the details, but for the sake of argument, he's arrested in February of '67, convicted, I don't know, whatever. A few weeks later, let's just call it March, he is in jail, county jail, March and April, maybe near a May or June time frame, he's released on a robbery charge. Do we know what happened? Let's, again, for the sake of argument, do we know what happened from May until August? Other than he moved to South Modesto. Do we know any details about his going-ons?
I have none. No idea.
Okay. I know that somewhere in this story, and I don't know why, my assumption is that maybe he assaulted somebody while in jail. That's just a guess. But something happened while he was still in jail, because from jail, the county jail here in Modesto, he was sentenced to a short stint in a state hospital, a mental health hospital, in March or April of '67, before completely being released from jail.
Well, it happened in a short time.
A lot happened in a short time.
Well, and he was released because Ronald Reagan closed the hospitals.
I believe so, yes. Yeah, there was legislation passed, 1967 or 8. It was like the Lanterman Act. Yeah, okay, thank you, Tim. Lanterman-Petrus Act, which ended definite involuntary commitment for the insane. Simple solution is they shut down the state mental health hospitals.
Yes.
And you either went to jail or you were released as insane, and we still deal with that today.
Yeah.
We don't have any treatment options for those that maybe they are criminally insane, maybe they're just criminals, maybe a combination of both. But we've got limited resources to address those issues even today, and this started back almost 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Are you trying to make a parallel between the change in legislation and the murder of your father?
I am. I mean, first of all, after the fact, an insane man doesn't plot like he plotted to move to an area where he knew Officer Lyman would have his patrol.
Yeah.
He made decisions that I would argue an insane man doesn't make.
Because he doesn't have the capacity to think critically. Yeah.
This was an ambush.
Yeah.
Is what this was. This was a calculated ambush. So, it's always hindsight's 20/20, yeah. But closing those hospitals, I think that had, my dad would probably still be here if it wasn't for him being let out.
There's not a doubt in your mind.
Not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I loved Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
But people, I feel, make mistakes, and I think he made a mistake.
Sure. Sure.
That I think cost my dad his life.
And I would argue probably a lot of others, not just police officers, but just a lot.
Yeah. A little bitter, about what he did. He had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would hope that he would have been told that this is the man that you let out that ambushed and killed the deputy sheriff.
Well, I don't want to add insult to injury, but just to kind of go back to this incident in Empire in February of '67, so that any of you are not aware, and for our guests, it goes even beyond that. And I'm just going to read you because I want to make sure that it's accurate. In 1953, he was charged with murder in Fort Worth, Texas. It is unclear because I don't have access to those records. I'm not sure what the outcome is, but he was charged with murder. But then in 1958, he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon in Arizona, and this is in the 50s. But then fast forward less than 10 years, now he's in California, and at least 9 years later, he's committing strong arm robberies, and then 6 months after that, engaged in homicidal activities again. So he had an extensive, violent criminal history even before the state hospitals were closed.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, there's a difference between criminal activity and activity of a man of insanity.
Right.
because of the ability or the capacity to know the difference.
Planned and plotted.
It is certain.
Yeah.
But one thing I don't want to lose sight of. Deputy Ed Lyman arrested him we touched on it, but I want to make this clear for our guests. Deputy Ed Lyman arrested him in Empire, and Ed Lyman was where this whole plot to kill began. But we've outlined during his time as a trustee, a privileged inmate, if you will, he began to plot the murder, knowing the shift, the schedule, and all these things. But now that we're going to fast forward and we understand this, fast forward to August 23rd of 1967, he's moved now from Empire to South Modesto. He's had time inside the sheriff's office to know the schedules and things. And he knows, I've got to do something to draw Ed Lyman in, who I'm going to seek revenge against for arresting me. I've got to draw him into this. So now I want to get to that night. The sheriff's office, and I'm going to let you expand on this, Chief, so just bear with me for a second. But the sheriff's office get a call for service at 604 Olivero of a stabbing. And Chief, I'm going to toss it to you now. So they get a call for stabbing. You were riding out with Deputy Harold Thornton, and why don't you pick it up from there? Because I think maybe we were enjoying a little meal break or something. Can you start to kind of explain
we had
that?
just finished our meal break.
Okay.
This was sometime right after 10 p.m. And we had taken our Code 7 meal break at, it's called Burnett's Drive-In, which is a little, kind of like Nifty and Riverbank, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
At the corner of Crow's Landing and School Street. And we had gotten back in the car, and Harold was catching up on his log activity report. And Jim Scott was a sergeant on the radio. This is before civilian dispatchers. And he dispatches to a 245 stabbing at 604 Olivero. And back then, and it's not just my opinion, but a lot of others I've talked to, this sheriff's department had the one riot, one ranger mentality, that one crime, one deputy. You just don't send backups to things like that. Today, that would probably be at least 2 cars.
Oh, more than that.
Would go to that.
More than that, yeah.
More than that, okay.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. So we get this call of a 245 stabbing, and so we go down Crow's Landing Road going south, and you cross Hatch, and you're still going south, and it might be the next street or one of the next few streets is Olivero Road, and it goes east off of Crow's Landing, and at that time it did a 90 degree and came out on Hatch, but now that's Jim Way. But it used to be Olivero. That's immaterial. Anyway, as we're going down that street, Harold commented to me. He says, "I haven't worked this beat, because our beats ended at Crow's Landing Road, and we had the west beat, and this was on the east side." And he says, as he's got the spotlight looking for numbers right and left, and people in that area, they did not keep their numbers in sequence, if they had them at all.
Yeah.
Some of the residences were up close to the road. Some of them were set back. So Harold's commenting to me, I don't know how we're going to find this. So we actually made at least 2 passes and then came back, and then through elimination, it said, well, it's got to be this place here.
Yeah.
And the driveway was about 40 to 50 yards back in. And Jim Scott had told us to contact the victim and the RP reporting person at the manager's trailer. It was a screened-in little trailer there at the beginning. And that was easy to see, because as soon as we pulled in there, that was the first one we headed right to it. Okay. We could see in the headlights, we could see a man laying on a lounge in a position kind of like I'm in now. And he had a white T-shirt on, and you could see blood all over his chest and stomach. And it was a real faint light from maybe a 40 or 50 watt light bulb. It was the only illumination they had. So we get there, and most deputies would have made me stay in the car, but Harold said, come on. So we went out there, and he took a statement from what happened. Actually, he looked at the victim. His name was Marion Metzler. I remember that plain as day. Took a statement from him first, and he said, I was in the communal restroom there, and this guy, this Miller guy, broke into my stall, and he had this big old long knife, and he just kept running that knife into me, kept running it into me. It's running into me, and he's starting to get aggravated.
Yeah.
And I don't have any reason why he would do that. He knows who I am. We've never had a word, angry word against one another. There was just no reason for him to do that. And then he turns around and he leaves. And so Harold's writing this down. And then got the statement from the person that called. And then he comes, he mentioned there's no first aid to do on this guy because everybody had been taking care of him. And those wounds were not bleeders. I guess a lot of stab wounds aren't. But, I mean, they bled, but they didn't continue to bleed. So.
What was the motive of the stabbing? At least the thought at that time was the motive of this stabbing to kill Metzler, or was it the cause? Was it to prompt a response from who was believed to be Deputy Lyman coming? Because if he had no beef with this guy, what else?
Answer number two. Yeah. In my mind, from what I've seen and what I've been told over the years from Sergeant Bear, he and I became fairly close after that because he'd call me frequently, and if he had another question or something. I mean, he just didn't investigate that case and drop it and say, I'm done with it. So he kept it open over the years. He really wanted to do whatever he could do to get some justice here. But that was his conclusion and mine based on what he said. Yeah, definitely. It was only reason was to get a deputy out there, and he thought it was going to be
Lyman, who he was seeking revenge on.
Because Lyman was scheduled to work that beat on that shift. Now, could have been a week, could have been 2 weeks, sometime before this, Lyman had put in for a week off.
Vacation request.
A vacation or whatever else they might have called it back then. But he put in for it, and he got it. And Harold was working vacation relief, which is why I saw him a week before that working a day shift in the Oakdale area. And then a week later, he's working night shift in South Modesto area.
Yeah.
So that's a typical of that time.
Yeah.
Typical vacation relief assignment.
Yeah.
So that adds up.
Very interesting. Deputy Thornton is interviewing the victim, obtaining the statement, gets that he was using the restroom and had been stabbed. At some point, he has to go and make contact with the suspect. He radioed for an ambulance because we need to provide medical treatment to the victim. Can you take it from there?
After Harold took brief statements from these people, he says, come on, back to the car. So we went back to the patrol car. There were no portable radios.
Yep. Okay.
And then he radioed for an ambulance for the stabbing victim. And then he looked at me, he kind of turned and looked at me and says, we had such a hard time finding this. I think the ambulance might also have a hard time finding it. And take your flashlight and go back out. Because, see, we're 40, 50 yards in.
Yeah.
Take your flashlight and go back out. When you see them coming down the road, just flag them down. I said, fine, of course. He says, in the meantime, I'll go see if I can find this yahoo and see what's going on.
So he goes to contact a assault with a weapon suspect by himself and only radioed for an ambulance, but not for another cop to come and assist him.
I know that to be a fact.
Yeah. The one riot, one deputy mentality. Okay. So.
And I've seen that many times afterwards.
Sure.
Where I continued to ride with these guys.
Yep. So you go to the road, You're going to wave in the ambulance as they are arriving, and you guys part ways.
Yeah, and I walked out there, and I was just kind of normal gait, not in a hurry. But as I'm out about 2/3 of the way down that trailer or down that driveway, I heard the shots when I got out there.
Okay. How many shots do you remember hearing? Do you remember how many?
At one point, and I testified to that, at one point I could tell you exactly how many there were in the sequence. All I can remember at this late date, there were maybe 8 to 9. A couple were louder than the others, which would have been Harold's 357 versus this cheap 38 that this guy had.
So you hear the gunshots. Obviously, that captures your attention. And then it's dark. You mentioned there's only one 50-watt light bulb. Then you hear footsteps running towards you. Did you have any idea who that was?
No, but I knew. I mean, it clicked in my head right away that I was in uniform. So whoever this was saying that obviously thought I was a deputy sheriff.
Sure.
And I could do something. But I said to myself, there is no way you're going back in there being unarmed.
Because as an explorer, you might wear a uniform that looks similar, but you have no firearm, no tools to use to protect yourself. Are you just, completely unarmed and okay?
Completely.
Yep. So
other than the flashlight.
What do you do with that information?
I'm running across the street.
Okay.
The only place to go. And I saw a house that was actually directly across the street that had the front door was open, but the screen door was closed.
Okay.
And these were the days before security doors that we know today. And it was just a cheap wood-framed screen door with the old-fashioned metal screen. And I don't know what I did as far as a sequence of events, but I either hollered or just grabbed the door and tried to pull it, but it was locked and hooked. And I just kind of panicked, so I just jerked it as hard as I could and pulled the whole thing off.
Yeah.
And the man in the house heard all that, and he comes in from another room, and he's got a towel wrapped around him. He'd been in a shower. And I slammed his front door and locked it. I told him, I said, there's a deputy been shot. Close and lock everything you got in the way of doors and windows. And then we prone out on the floor. And he did. He was real cooperative. And I saw his phone, and I just grabbed it, laid on the floor, and the old dialed operator, because there was no 911 yet.
Yeah.
And she got me hooked me up right away with the sheriff's office. And Jim, I recognized his voice, answered the phone. And I told him what was going on. And before he even answered me, I heard him say 1199, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He says, where are you? I told him. He says, stay right there and don't move until you see some help.
Sure.
I said, no problem. I'll be right here. And that's when I remember I started shaking a little bit. And it seemed like less than a minute before I heard sirens coming from both directions down Olivero.
Yeah.
I mean, and looking out the window, the first car I remember seeing was a sheriff car, and I think it was either Dale Hinkle, who was a reserve at the time, or Bob Pinero, who was also a reserve. They were both working per diem shifts. But then they just started coming in droves. Ceres PD, Modesto Police, Highway Patrol. So then I opened the door and started walking out to see if I could see more of what was going on.
Mm-hmm. So you heard 8 or 9. It doesn't matter, but you heard a volley of gunfire.
Yes.
You mentioned that one was louder than the other, and you'd mentioned Harold's 357 versus Miller's 38. You obviously are in some sort of a state of panic. You run across the street. You call for help. Deputies and other officers arrive. Probably a lot of chaos is ensuing. how, as deputies arrived, what happened next? To the best of your recollection, how did this series of events unfold from there?
I have a problem getting them in order, but
That's
I could
okay.
tell you all that took
Yeah.
place. One of the arriving cars was another sergeant named Mike Blanusa, who was actually our explorer advisor.
Mm.
And he wanted to know where I was. I heard him ask it, "Where's Waddell? Where's Waddell?" I said, "I'm over here." And he come in, he said, "You all right?" And he grabs me and starts looking me over.
Yeah.
I said, I'm fine. I was scared. I'm not now.
Yeah.
And he said, "I just got to make sure you're taken care of. Your mom and dad will kill me."
Sure. Yeah.
So I said, I'm fine. And then he says, "Well, I'm going to go on in here and see what happened." And by that time, the watch commander, who was a guy named Vic Lambriglia, he was, I think he was the only patrol lieutenant they had at the time, since they didn't have different shifts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and he was part of it, but I started to walk in. Oh, and by that time the ambulance had arrived,
Okay.
and I saw them take their gurney and run back into the trailer park with their gurney.
Wherever Thornton met Miller. We don't know, was it his apartment or his trailer? We don't know, but they ran deeper into the trailer park with the gurney, and you observed that happening.
I didn't see it go all the way in,
Okay.
because at that point I did not go all the way in.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why in a second. But I do know that after Miller stabbed Metzler,
Okay.
he ran back to his trailer,
Okay.
armed himself with his .38 that he had bought in a pawn shop a week or 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and armed himself with that. And then he comes out, and right at the far end of his short little camp trailer is a tree, a pretty large tree. And he hid behind that tree and waited in ambush,
Lying in wait.
lying in wait. And then, from what I was told, probably by Don Bear, that when Harold came to knock on the door to make contact, he opened up on him. And that could have been a distance about from here to that camera,
Yeah.
maybe 3 to 5 yards,
Yeah.
or 5 to 7 yards, something like that.
Yeah.
And backing up, after I saw that gurney and the ambulance attendants go back in, I just kind of stood there for a little bit, wondering if I should go in or what should I do. And it wasn't long at all. They came walking back out. And what I have to say next is going to be a little graphic.
That's fine.
You okay with that, sir?
Yep.
Okay. I saw Harold laying on that gurney. He was coming out head first. And I was so mad or just perplexed that they didn't strap his arms in. His arms were dangling off the sides. I thought, what? I guess they were in such a hurry, I guess, to get him loaded up and get him out of there. So I shouldn't blame them, but it just didn't look right.
Yeah.
And blood everywhere, just everywhere, all over his shirt. And it was just like, now this time of year, it was a real hot night that night. So he had a short sleeve shirt on, and that Stanislaus County Sheriff's patch, I noticed as it was coming by me, was clear, not a mark on it. And it was just somehow that
image was burned in your, yeah.
Still with me today, with his arm kind of dangling in that image. And just, anyway, so they went past me, and I started to go back in there, and Mike Blanusa came back out, and I said, "Can I go in?" And he says, I don't think you should. I really don't think you should. I'd rather you not. I mean, if you really insist, I'd rather you not, and I didn't. And what happened? Then I heard a siren. The second ambulance was arriving for actually Metzler, who the first one was called for originally.
Sure.
And the rest of it that night at the scene was chaotic, to say the least. And then Bulanusa asked me sometime later, he says, do you feel like you could drive one of the patrol cars back to the office? You have a license? I said, yeah, I have a license. He said, could you're okay to do that? You're not too shook up? I said, I'm sure I could. I mean, yeah, I'm still just blown away by all this stuff, what had just happened.
Yeah.
And so I did. I drove the patrol car back there and parked it down there in the pit. And then went inside, and by that time there were detectives starting to gather.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much in their custody for the rest of that night.
Yeah.
Way on into the morning hours, telling them my story.
Quite an incredible story. For somebody, again, at this, you were 17 years old at the time?
17. Yeah.
How does it make you feel today? You know, kind of hearkening back to the memories and some of the images that are burned in your brain.
You know, I've recounted that so many times in writing it for the Officers Down memorial page.
Yeah.
What was that, maybe 15 years ago? And then I wrote a book, and it's a chapter in my book. So I had to recreate it for that. And I guess I could say I'm a bit numb, but nonetheless enraged by what was allowed to happen by our criminal justice system. And I don't know who at the sheriff's office allowed that guy to have trustee status.
Yeah.
But I think he's just as culpable as you say Reagan is.
Yeah.
Just as culpable.
To allow him access to sensitive material is just crazy.
Yeah. And
certainly fast forwarding 60 years, I mean, it does seem, it seems insane that we would allow an inmate inside the sheriff's office having access to, you know, I know all of you said it, the sensitive information.
do you have inmates today doing that kind of work?
No, sir. No. Inmates today still, they'll be outside mowing lawns, trimming trees, fixing sprinkler heads, things like that. We have an inmate work program that cleans up trash on the side of the road under constant supervision of a deputy sheriff. But inside any sheriff's facility or county facility, no. And maybe that is the silver lining. We've learned from our experiences and we've learned from our mistakes.
Yeah, everybody always does.
Yeah. I want to go back to one thing specific, and that is the different sounds of the gunfire that you heard. Do either of you know why? Because if I'm not mistaken, the standard issue revolver of those days was a .38 special. But you said that Deputy Thornton was carrying a .357 Magnum.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight on that?
Oh, totally, yeah. The standard issue, I mean, I'm a gun guy. I've always been interested in guns. The standard issue back then was a Smith & Wesson Model 15. They called it a combat masterpiece. It was a 4-inch 38 special. However, the department also allowed deputies, if they wanted to carry a .357, it had to be a Colt or a Smith & Wesson. I think that's the only two that were allowed back then. And it had to pass inspection of the Department of Armor.
Yeah. Same kind of a theory applies today,
So,
as long as the sheriff approves it. So he carried his own firearm.
yeah.
Probably because having superior firearm is always going to be advantageous. Do you recall any details about the discharge of that firearm? You heard the sounds go off. Do you know? We know now that Miller was sentenced to death in prison, so he survived the shooting. and I'm going to defer to Ed. If you don't want to go down this road, it's okay.
fine.
But do you know any of the details? Not because you were there and you saw it with your own eyes, but during that investigation, are there any details about the shooting that you know that you would be okay with revealing?
Okay, first of all, I was told that the actual cause of death to Harold was not from an actual, if this makes sense, gunshot. It was hypovolemic shock.
Hypovolemic
Hypo.
shock. What is that? Do you know
Hyper is too much, hypo is too low.
Okay.
It's a medical term for loss of blood.
Okay.
And that was due to the many wounds and the locations of where they were. If I remember right, it was something like 4 wounds, maybe 5.
Were bulletproof vests a thing back then?
No.
Okay, so he was wearing a T-shirt and a uniform shirt, nothing more.
That's it.
Okay.
And you know mace?
Pepper spray?
Aerosol,
Yep.
tear gas?
Yep.
Harold carried his on the front, where most of the deputies at the time carried them on the side.
Okay.
A couple maybe in the back. He carries his on the front just to, I think it was the left of, it had to have been to the left of his buckle before this 12-round ammunition carrier that they all had back then.
Okay.
And one of the detectives theorized that more than likely the first shot that hit him punctured his mace can.
That's what I got too.
Oh.
And that effectively prohibited him from returning effective fire.
He maced himself.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Because one shot had hit Miller, and it was in the lower abdomen. And the bullets that were used back then, and I remember looking at on Harold's belt, duty belt, I could see this copper clad, they called it copper clad Winchester. Semi-wide cutter is what he was carrying.
Yeah.
And they don't expand and blow up like the hollow points of today, but they just punch a sharp hole through whatever they're hitting. And it did sufficient damage to require him to have a permanent colostomy.
Miller. So Deputy Thornton returned fire. He took at least one round, hit the canister of pepper spray.
Oh, wait a minute.
Blew up, but he was able to retrieve his firearm and return fire. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so the volley, and you mentioned 8 or 9, the actual number doesn't matter, but the exchange of gunfire was coming and going. We had the deputy have the wherewithal and the instinct to fight, and he returned fire. Do you know what happened to Miller? Was he struck by gunfire?
That's what I just meant, if I
Okay.
said it wrong.
Okay.
Miller was struck in the abdomen, lower
Okay.
abdomen, by the 357.
I think 4 other shots went wild, but one got him from Dad.
Do you know what kind of damage that caused? Was he paralyzed? Did he have any?
Just colostomy. He
Okay.
couldn't,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was wheelchair bound the rest of his life.
it blew up his
Really?
bowel system.
Yeah.
I think, if I remember right, the last shot I heard came a few seconds after the volley. Just one shot. And
And that was him grabbing my dad's gun.
had to be.
Yeah.
Had to be.
So he was assassinated.
Yeah.
And my dad had an ankle gun, didn't he? 38 ankle gun.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he did. But you're being maced. I mean,
Yeah.
your whole world just got turned upside down.
Yeah.
You don't know what's up and what's down, but
Yeah.
but he had another gun on him.
If you can't see, what
No.
good's it gonna do?
No.
Chief, I during our pre-interview, I want to just take a moment to go back. When you went back to the patrol car to use the in-car radio to radio for the ambulance. You told me something that hasn't been shared yet. But it was something that you believed occurred when you were asked to go to the road with the flashlight. Surface level, it was go to the road and flag down the ambulance. But you think there was a deeper meaning behind that?
Yeah, I do.
Would it be okay to ask you to share that?
Sure.
Again, and this wasn't spoken. You don't know this to be fact because these words were never spoken, but you believe you were sent to the road for something different.
To protect me.
To protect
Me.
Mm,
I think your dad,
I'm sure.
and this really goes along with what you said earlier about his propensity to save people. It's like whether he actually suspected this, like whether it was a premonition that something like this was going to happen, or just being naturally cautious. I think, and I may be totally wrong, but I don't think I am. I just think.
Well, he would have known you were unarmed.
Yeah. I just thought he wanted me out of harm's way. And that was the best way to do it. Send me on an errand. And it worked.
To save your life.
Because, and if I may, are we allowing any profanity in here?
Well,
If it's a
look,
quote?
On our first episode, the sheriff was dropping some profanity, so yeah.
Well-
I don't know how many virgin ears we've got as listeners, so
Well,
you won't offend me if that's what you're asking.
You won't offend me.
I was just wanted, and this isn't something that comes out of my mouth. It was a quote from Miller that Blanusa heard when he went back in there. The two gunshot victims were laying within a few feet of one another. And Miller was hollering at anybody who would listen, because there was deputies and patrolmen from series and whatnot all around. He says, "You sons of bitches, give me another gun and I'll kill every one of you. Every damn one of you." Nobody gave him a gun.
That's good to hear.
I would have given him a bullet from my gun.
Yeah. Ed, you had mentioned that he was wheelchair bound for the rest of his life. And just so that our audience knows, Miller ended up dying in state prison. Again, we have mentioned the closure of the state mental health hospital. As a matter of fact, City Modesto had the first, as I understand it, the first mental health hospital closure in the entire state, which had direct impact likely on his ability to be released or have custody, trustee status of the jail, all those things. But you mentioned that they were found within feet of each other, but he was wheelchair bound. Is it your belief that Miller, after being shot and struck, was either able to kind of hobble closer to your father, or was he kind of doing the army belly crawl? Because you'd mentioned that there was at least one final shot, likely an execution style. Do you have any insight on that?
No, I mean, it had to be one or the other. He would have either crawled. But see, I don't know how close they were when the actual volley started.
Yeah.
Other than maybe, possibly, the farthest they could have been is from here to where maybe Colt's head is. And then it just worked its way closer throughout the process.
Well, this is really impactful to me. It really just draws me back to this idea of this, gone but not forgotten. And we're talking 60 years ago. We live in a world that is, they say it's a 24-hour news cycle. Hell, it's probably even faster than that. It seems like it's 24-second news cycle. There's a new headline. There's a new issue. There's a new something to capture our attention. And just, we're not ready to close, but I want to take a minute and just really, really, truly thank you guys. Because I don't want our community, I don't want our office, I don't want our family to forget about the sacrifice that your father made. I mean, your family has been affected by this. And it really means a lot that you're here, still even emotional, And if nothing else, I hope that less about our audience, but more about you, sir. I hope that this can provide some closure. Getting to meet the young man that was very likely the last one to
delighted
see.
meet this man.
The last one to see your father alive. And we lived at less than a mile apart from one another for 20 plus years. And I'm excited just to be a part of this.
Yeah.
But there's another part of this that is really impactful as well. And I'm not going to take away from your father, but we mentioned about the trustee status, and we mentioned about Miller having the opportunity to see the schedule and to see that Lyman was working, and he plotted to kill Lyman. But then unknowingly, he took a vacation day, a week, whatever it is. He took time off of work. And your father covered that shift that led to this tragedy. Chief, I understand that there might be some information if we were to fast forward a few years. I don't even know the time frame. But can we circle back to Deputy Lyman and what fate crossed his path a few short years later?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember when it actually happened. Not even close. It was sometime after that. Ed Lyman had been promoted to sergeant. And not that that has anything to do with this, but it wasn't until, maybe within, I'm just going to throw out there, maybe 6 months after his promotion, he was found dead one morning from a gunshot wound.
Sergeant Lyman.
I didn't know that.
Sergeant Lyman. And it was ruled a suicide. And it was thought by most of the people that I had talked to in the department that it was survivor's guilt. Should have been me.
I didn't know that. So it affected more families than we initially thought.
I'll tell you, but we did try to find a police report, an obituary, something, so that we can provide more clarity and context to that. But we couldn't find record of that. But maybe he lived out of town. I mean, we're searching for an obituary in Modesto B archives or series, but hell, he could have lived in Patterson, and it just made that paper. I don't know. But I have also heard from an older deputy that said, yeah, he believed that to be the case also.
A tragic deal.
And so you stayed on as an explorer after the shooting.
Yeah.
How much longer did it take for you to become a deputy sheriff after the shooting?
Till I turned 21.
So 17.
17.
So 3 or 4 years or so.
Yeah, and I've got a little suffix to this thing.
Uh-oh. Say more.
After I'd been cleared sometime, I was a reserve. We took all the per diem shifts, paid shifts we could get. They were short on deputies or something, I don't know. Anyway, I was working a graveyard South Modesto shift, and about 5 a.m., the dispatcher calls me and asks me if I would take when I get off, would I do a transport of a female 5150 mental case to Stockton State Hospital.
Because Modesto State Hospital was closed. Okay.
And I said, sure. So I went to the jail, and there was we called them matrons back then, the female deputies.
Okay.
That rings a bell now.
Does it?
I think my mom was called a matron.
Yeah.
When she worked in the jail.
Yeah, and they had the little tie that's
like a bow tie almost.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Anyway, so we come out and we take the prisoner, put it in the back, and then this lady gets in the front seat, and I was looking for ways to try and drum up conversation, and she was not very talkative at all. So we just did some small talk, and then it was mostly a quiet ride to Stockton. And then we got there, and then we got our prisoner deposited and got our handcuffs back. And as we're looking in as we're getting ready to get in the car, I look at her name tag, and it says M. Thornton. It was Marilyn, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't my mom, or it was.
Why wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think it was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How long after the shooting was this? You were still a reserve, so you weren't a full-time?
I was
6 months, 8 months, 18
after
months?
the shooting. No,
Yes, sir.
This was 4 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you were a sheriff. Okay. How did that conversation go?
I looked at her. Said, "Are you Harold's wife?"
I'll be darned.
I said,
Did she know who you were?
Well, that's part of the story. I said, "I'm so sorry, so sorry." And she goes, "Thank you." So we get in the car and started heading back on 99. I said, "Do you want to talk? You have any questions? Do you want to talk about it?" And she just looked at me. She goes, "No."
Typical Thornton. Internalize.
No, not at all. It's okay. I respect that. That was it.
Did she know that you were the explorer with Harold?
Oh,
At
yeah,
any point?
yeah,
Okay.
Because I asked her, I said, "Do you know who I am?" She says, "You bet I know who you are."
Okay.
Was she angry or?
Almost, it could have been taken that way, but I'm not gonna say yes. I'm gonna say she was just impassioned
Yeah.
Yeah.
over the whole thing. She still had some raw feelings. There's no doubt about it. But maybe she was angry that why did you survive and my husband didn't. I'm not gonna say that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that.
We never talked about it, but I actually had some questions for you later on about that. But I didn't know you guys had that kind of close contact so quickly afterwards.
4 years, at least 4 years after.
Yeah.
Well, I think of things later, not when I should.
Yeah.
But
So it was obvious to you she was still hurting. It could be anger, it could be frustration, but she was still hurting
yes,
4 years later.
absolutely.
I know in our family, I think it was anger. There was a lot of anger going around in our family for
Yeah.
years afterwards. Not towards you, but towards Ronald Reagan.
The situation.
This
Sure.
situation made it pretty, wasn't like it was a bank robbery and it just things happened. It was an ambush.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even been working that night. So,
Miller should have never been out of jail.
no, he shouldn't have been out of jail.
I mean, especially we
He
talk about
obviously
that.
wasn't insane because he plotted
Correct.
this whole thing over
Correct.
days, enough to move to the area he needed to go to.
And with a murder charge in Texas, and then the assault with deadly weapon charge in Arizona, and then the strong arm robbery in Empire. Boy, we talk about being soft on crime in today's world. Hell, this started 60 years ago.
Yeah.
One thing that's pretty clear to me that they call it soft on crime today. I think today the laws are a lot tougher than they were back then.
Do you think so?
Those laws, when
Yeah.
it comes to felony, and look at the enhancement for a weapon.
Yeah.
They didn't have that back then.
Sure.
And to get county time for something that today would give you, 20 years at least?
Yeah. Hard to tell. I mean, there's a lot of variables that come into play, but
There
yeah.
is.
Guys, I want to kind of transition. We've gone through the night of the murder. We've gone through some of those key facts. We've talked about a little bit of a reunion with you and Mrs. Thornton. Still 4 years later, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. But I want to kind of scale back from the 4 years and get into, do we have any memories of the funeral? Either of you. I mean, do you have any, Ed?
Did you go to the funeral?
My mind's not remembering it,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I don't think I
Yeah.
did.
And I ask because today, a law enforcement funeral is a big to-do. I'm talking miles-long processions and cities closed down, and I mean, it's a
Yeah.
big to-do.
Back then, I think it was pretty big for the time. I think there was
Okay.
a couple hundred officers and
So you have a small recollection of
Yeah,
the event.
I remember
Okay.
going to the church there on Granger and doing the viewing, which was pretty hard.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Lady of Fatima Church.
L-
My
It's
mom
still there.
My mom continued to go there
I went there as a kid.
until she passed.
Oh, well, that church is still there.
Oh yeah, my
Granger and
my
Sherwood.
stepdad
Yeah.
still goes there.
I apologize for cutting you off, but you remember the viewing? You got a little upset.
Yeah.
Do you remember any other details or memorable moments from the funeral you'd like to share?
Not too many. They put us in a little box in the front, and they gave I guess you would call it a sermon.
Yeah.
And the whole back was full of officers. We had family and friends there. So don't remember a lot.
From the family's
you just look
perspective.
around and you see how
Yeah.
hurting.
Yeah. But from the family's perspective, again, just from what you can recall, it's a funeral no different than any other. The pomp and circumstance of the law enforcement component didn't really stand out to you.
Yeah, because I hadn't been to many funerals. I don't know if I'd ever been to a
Yeah.
funeral, so I didn't know, what they should look
Yeah.
like. But, definitely there was a lot of pomp and circumstance
Yeah. Okay.
put onto it.
Yeah.
You look at your mom, and so if your mom's crying, you're crying.
Yeah. What were the following months and years like immediately following the event?
It was just upside down. Everything was changed. Everything was gone. Couldn't really tell you any specifics, but the whole dynamic had changed. It did get better when she met Daryl.
How long was that? Roughly.
3 years,
Okay.
probably. I believe one of my aunts introduced her to Daryl.
Yeah.
And it just sort of blossomed from there. And I question his sanity to not run.
Sorry, that
when
caught
he-
me off guard.
When he realized there's 7
Yeah.
terrors running around the house.
Yeah.
I mean, what man would take on that with all the baggage that we had connected to us?
Yeah. But he was introduced, provided stability and love
Yeah,
for you and all of your siblings
yeah.
and your mother.
Hmm. And I think there was a time there where maybe not the younger ones, but the older ones were a bit bitter.
Yeah.
When somebody tells you something and it's like, well, you're not my dad. Typical that you'd have
Yeah.
in a divorce or a
What
murder.
did life look like for a young Ed? What dreams and goals did you have? What goals and dreams did you achieve, and what doors were shut because of this?
Well, I mean, early on, really not much. I was just a child, 5, 6 years old. As I grew up, I got into, football. I wanted to play for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. That's another cheesehead.
Yeah. So I like sports,
Okay.
and I wanted to become, I wanted to do something in sports. And then later on, I wanted to become sheriff's officer.
Really?
Really wanted to do that. My friend that I grew up with in high school had become, he was trying for the sheriff's office. He ended up being a bailiff,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Vale. I don't know if anybody had ever heard of him.
Yep.
But, we were best friends in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
We both wanted to grow up and be in law enforcement. And then my mom just said no. And couldn't put her through, too.
Yeah.
So then along came Daryl, opened up the swimming pool business,
Yeah.
and then we all went into building swimming pools and houses and bathrooms and
Yeah.
construction.
How old do you think you were when you had the desire to be a deputy sheriff? Teenager?
Yeah. I would say 11, 12. still always wanted to be an officer.
You got some
Still
of that
wish I would have
compassion.
to this day.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have been great because, especially back then, I was a bit of a hothead.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have passed any exams.
Psychological exams, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It was sort of like you. It's like, I wish you would have had a gun so you could finish what he started, because he deserved to go out on a gurney just like everybody else. You know, that's my mentality. He started it, and I wish somebody would have been there to finish it.
It's understandable.
I think that's okay.
You know, I don't forgive and forget. I'm an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth kind of person. So,
I think he lived 13 years, if I remember right.
yeah.
Before passing away in jail.
Right.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know if you guys researched that, but I know.
I probably did and forgot it.
We have mentioned a couple of times, in 1968, the Lanternman Act, that I think what it really did is it shifted funding away from state hospitals down to like county jails and diverted these resources to, Atascadero. But you've mentioned a few times Reagan and some of the policies he got pushed through. So we lost the funding for state hospitals, but there was also something else that happened because Miller was sentenced to death by a jury of his peers. Now, 13 years later, he ultimately died in prison, but he was not put to death.
No.
What happened?
I don't know which governor was in there, if it was Reagan or
The time governor.
he
Reagan,
was
sorry,
governor.
sorry.
I'm not sure if it was probably a vote it was probably on the ballot. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they abolished the death penalty.
Death penalty.
I'm guessing it probably would have been Jerry Brown.
It could have been Jerry Brown.
I can't imagine Reagan overturning a death penalty.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it went to the voters. I don't remember.
I don't think so. But it might have. I don't know.
Yeah. It was Reagan. It was February of 72
He was the one. So
that the death penalty was suspended, overturned. I don't know what the right term is,
Yeah.
but they ended the death penalty.
yeah. So that's it's double-sided
Yes.
knife there.
Yeah.
He let him out. They sentenced him to death,
Yeah.
and then he let him live.
Yeah.
So that hurts. And
Did
he
you-
was I thought he was a good governor. I thought he was a good president. But he made that mistake for
Yeah.
our family.
Did the family dinner table conversations ever involve this conversation?
I'm sure it
a
did.
discussion between your
Yeah.
mother and stepfather and
Yeah.
and how it just drastically changed her life?
Yeah. I mean, as far as him, we wanted him dead.
Yeah.
To this day, I would do it if I could.
Yeah.
I'd have no qualms. I am not a forgiving person when it comes to stuff like that.
No one's
I
judging
don't
you.
care if you're crazy,
Yeah.
because he's not crazy. But,
Yeah.
if it's a rabid dog, what do we do with rabid dogs?
Put him
He
down.
was a dog.
Yeah.
So, bitter. I'm very bitter.
And that's okay.
You know,
No one is judging you for being upset, bothered, bitter, whatever the term is you want to use. My hope is, sir, is that, because I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't want you to punch me. I see the emotion coming out of you, and it still bothers you. And that's okay. But it feels like you've never been given any closure. It feels like you've never even been given any help.
probably not.
Given an outlet to
Yeah.
burn this off.
Yeah, it didn't really happen in those days. Tough love,
Thornton's had to internalize things.
Yeah, and that's why we are today. We tried to do research, and I called my older brother, and he told me about Japan and the electrical engineer, and the Cadillac, but we just don't sit around on Thanksgiving and talk about it. We just anymore. I'm sure we did at the beginning. But now it's just like just internalized, and I'm probably the worst. Kathy is probably the second.
Worst meaning?
Being the most bitter.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have no love lost.
I hope.
The animal.
I hope that you'll find some closure.
Yeah.
Maybe the introduction to Chief Waddell.
Yeah.
Maybe
This.
I don't know.
This is refreshing for me, because he was there. So that helps. But on our daily life, we don't dwell on it. I don't dwell on it.
Yeah. God, I think
there are some
that'd
things-
drive you crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to the memorial at Lakewood,
Yeah.
That just stirs.
Yeah.
Or I see officers that are killed in the line of duty on TV,
Yeah.
and that bothers me.
One of the more recent, they're not the plot to kill and the vacation relief, but with one of the more recent, it's been about 10 years, Dennis Wallace.
Yeah.
He was murdered at Fox Grove, and the defendant there, David Martin, he was claiming to be clinically insane and had to kind of go through a similar process as what Miller was dealing with, or trying to skirt his accountability and say, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just crazy.
They're searching for excuses.
Gentlemen, are there any last thoughts? Anything that you've been holding back and you need to let it out?
Not for me.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you for being there with him that night.
It's okay. I don't need to tear you guys' equipment up here.
But I'm glad he wasn't there alone.
No, we had a nice, cordial conversation during our lunch break that night. It was memorable.
And in our family, there's no ill feelings. Like you should have done something to help him. There's no animosity towards you.
I appreciate that.
I'm just glad that there was someone there with him, because he would have known that someone was trying to get help.
Oh, I tried.
So I just wanted you to know that I'm grateful.
Thank you.
That you were there. I'm sorry you had to go through it, but I'm glad you were there.
Just meant to be for some reason,
I wish you would have had a gun.
Me too.
Guys, each year, the Stanislaus County Peace Officer Memorial honors and recognizes a fallen officer. Obviously, it's within this county. But something that we haven't mentioned, and I'm just going to touch on it real quick, is to the best of the research that we can find, your father's murder was the first line of duty death that the sheriff's office has ever had to deal with. And we're talking 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So I want to go back and say it one last time, not to sound cheesy or cliche, but when we talk about this term, gone but not forgotten, I want to just take a minute and just honor your father and the sacrifices in your family, the sacrifices that they had to make for the service to our community, the service to the young boy in Japan, and where it started there, and his service to our country and coming back to our community. Last month we interviewed our sheriff, West Point graduate, and did a full career in the military, and now he's serving. I just want to focus on the service to our community with whom we are entrusted, their safety and security, and sometimes in that process, they get the better of us. And I don't want to forget your father's memory, what he did for our country and our community. And so I want to remind everybody, all of our guests, Sunday, October 4th of this year, your father will be honored again during the Peace Officer Memorial. It's a very nice event downtown Modesto. I would like to invite both of you to be there and to be recognized. And when I say both, I mean both. And I would really like to see you guys so that we don't forget, so that we can reinvigorate this conversation and we can reinvigorate some memories, that some that we enjoy and some that we don't enjoy to have to address and deal with. But I want to thank you for your time. I know that this has been difficult.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed learning more about your father. I hope that our guests will too. I'd like to just kind of end in saying thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time and your attention to this matter. And please, let's not forget.
That's what I was hoping for. You know, I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
So I want people to remember.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Not doing it for me.
Sure.
Doing it for him.
For your father.
Well, I'm thankful for the department for doing it, because it has entered my mind through the years that how this could not be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
To him and Bill Dickens and all the other guys I knew that were lost, the guy from Turlock, and this is a good thing.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Hopefully this has saved other officers from that night. I mean, it's like plane crashes. There's like anything else. You learn from these situations, you know.
It's funny you say that.
Maybe you don't send one guy in anymore like that. You know, somebody has to watch his back. Everybody has to watch the other guy's back. When you're the only guy there, a guy hiding behind a tree, what are you going to do?
Well, it wasn't mentioned in this conversation, but along those lines, in a conversation that I had at Mr. Waddell's house, speaking with his wife, Mrs. Waddell, I learned that this incident changed the trajectory of not only his life, but his career as a deputy sheriff and law enforcement officer, because he focused on training and making sure that he always had proper tactics and a skill set built for survival.
Yeah.
And through the loss of life of your father, it certainly impacted the training and the skill set for at least one man.
Yeah. That's what you want. You want other people to learn, not really a mistake, but, you know, learn from these situations.
Yeah.
That, you know, these things can happen.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
I thank
Pleasure meeting you.
Chief Waddell for being here.
My pleasure.
It was very nice to meet you.
You too.
Finally.
we probably went like this on some days.
Dozens of times, yeah. Well, thank you, guys.
On Crain Road.
Now I'm committing to my memory what you look like.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.